Hi everyone, welcome at Build. It is great to be here. So today I'm going to do a short session on fusion of remote operations, simulation and digital twin. Now my name is Alexander Meijers and I am a global XR technology and industrial metaverse lead working for Avanade. I'm also a Microsoft MVP for mixed reality due to my community contributions with the global XR community, global XR conference and other events, and also speaking and talking about these subjects. Now, within my work, I focus mainly on three parts. One of those is productivity, and within productivity, I focus mainly on implementation of remote assist and Microsoft Guides using Dynamics field services. Another part of my job is to focus on industrial metaverse. And from that perspective, I'm looking into building worlds by using products like Mesh and other collaboration tools, but also how to integrate things like digital twins, OpenAI, and to create immersive experiences. And that actually connects me to my third role, which is innovation. So one of the things I love about when we do Microsoft technology is the fact that you can do so much with that. And with innovation, I'm always looking for new ideas by bringing things together and see if I can create solutions we benefit clients for. And that is something I'm going to talk about today. Now, one of the things I think is really important when we talk about Microsoft technology is that building solutions based on the strength of Microsoft products platform, combining by products and services to empower the workforce of organizations. And what I mean by that is that Microsoft has an enormous amount of really great products and services. But the real strength of those products and services will come up when you start to combine those things. And that is of course also the thing when you talk about industrial metaverse. Because within the industrial metaverse, you're trying to enable humans and AI, this is the definition of Microsoft, to work together to design, build, operate on systems by using these digital technologies. And what it actually means is it is saying bring all those technologies together and allow people to work together to actually achieve something. Now, the solution I'm going to talk about today, and I'm going to do it first on a bit of a high level to explain it, and then I'm going into a deep dive of the architecture, is called Control Site. Now, Control Site is an accelerator we have been building for the industrial metaverse. And what it actually does is, it actually does the same thing I just explained. It brings all those technologies together and creates a solution which clients can leverage on. And it uses products like Guides, Remote Assist. It's built on OpenXR, which allows us to actually deploy it to things like HoloLens or to virtuality or even to WebGL. But the most important thing is that it has an integration on platforms around Dynamics 365 field services, as digital twins, as Internet of Things, and even on AI, which is part of Dynamics 365 field services. Now, one of the things we had to look for first was to look at what are the immediate challenges our clients are facing. And I will promise this is the only thing I'm going to explain a bit around the solution on a business level. So the first one we looked at was how can we prevent accidents and improving safety by using immersive technologies. Now you could think about having a person close to a machine which turns on and the person needs to be brought into safety. And the best way to do that is, for example, to use augmented wayfinding, bring the person to a safe area. Now that's something which has already been built and easy to do. The second thing we had was enabling remote work and increasing productivity. Now those things are really easy because if you think about it, it's actually Remote Assist and Microsoft Guides, the two products of Microsoft, which allows you to create those kind of solutions in combination with field services. Now the third one was an interesting one. We want to improve processes, controls and insights. And what it means is that we actually want to have something which enables each person in each role, in each situation with the right information to perform better. And that is what Control Site is about. Now, how does it work? We start with collecting live asset data and think about real-time IoT sensory data, but also data which comes from field services. And this sounds a bit weird, but the cool thing is when you start combining all those back-end system data together, you can actually achieve a lot more in the front end by combining and showing different contexts. Now, to make it easy and to make it implementable for clients, specifically for enterprise clients who are already using field services, we kept it to the basic minimum. So think about only focusing on facility, an asset, a bookable resource, a case or alert, etc., like work orders. Now all the data is collected, and what we do is with that data we create what we call a virtual footprint with digital twins, because within Azure Digital Twins you create something which is not directly visible. Now, because the data in the backend changes a lot, we also want to have those changes incorporated within the digital twin. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're auto-generating and updating the digital footprint within the Azure Digital Twin. Now then we are targeting specific locations. So think about a facility manager or a person who's in the field. They have different requests on information and technology available. And then we try to get that insights and information towards that person. Now, as I already explained a bit, it's all about contextual information, because the ultimate goal is you need to give your workers throughout the whole organization, if they are a manager or a field technician or someone who's just working in the office, you need to give them the right information at the right time based on their role and their tasks. And as you can imagine, that an operational manager wants to leverage end-to-end telemetry to improve safety and productivity, the field technician just wants to simplify his work and able to fill those knowledge gaps he has when he is, for example, doing infrequent tasks. And that means that both people will see different information, because the person in the operational manager space, in the example here, is looking at some of the machines the client has bought, while the field technician on the right side is looking at a detailed issue at one of those machines and get more information. Now let me show you in a demonstration how it would look like. So we have an operational manager and she's getting a notification on her mobile and indicates that something has occurred in one of the facilities. There seems to be a power transformer down. So she puts on the HoloLens. In this case, we have used the HoloLens 2 for this, and she is able to pinpoint the location, and she can actually drill down to that location. And as soon as she does that, it will open the location itself, and it will already show some information and data about the power transformer down, and also shows a work order which has already been created. Now the work order can be assigned to a person, in this case Antonio Polo. As soon as it is assigned, that Antonio Polo, the field technician, goes to that location and tries to solve the problem. But if he's not able to do that, he needs to have more information. The information gap we talked about. So at that point, he can use the same application, but now from a different role. And he's now getting like the work order details, but also more information around IoT sensors. And also the information about the asset itself and where it consists of. Now, if he's still not able to solve the problem, or for example, it is a task which is a bit difficult to do because it's not done so many times a year, he could actually now start up a guide which is using just the standard applications of Microsoft Guides, and which teaches him how to replace a certain part of that machine. Now, and if he's still not able to solve the problem, he could connect with a remote support engineer, and that would be possible through the same app, Guides, or to use something like Remote Assist. Now, this was a bit of a high level to explain how control side and how it works and why it's so important to start combining those technologies. Because as you can imagine, this actually brings more detailed information and allow people to more successfully do their work. Now, how does this work? So at a high level, the control side high level architecture is we have like a data connect, and the data connect brings IoT data and Dynamics field services data together. All the data goes into Azure, and in Azure there are certain things happening, and I'm going in depth more explaining that, which finally creates a Azure Digital Twin, which contains the entities of all the field services, but also the updated IoT data. So think about the work order or an IoT alert, they are all there within the digital twin. And as you can imagine, when a work order has been finished, it will also disappear from the digital twin. Now, and at the front, we're able to leverage the digital twin And based on contextual roles, we can decide what information we want to show and in what form we want to show. Now, in this example I just showed you, we used HoloLens 2, but as you can imagine, the platform is actually able to do way more because we built it on top of OpenXR, which allows us to go to WebGL, to go to VR and any other place. In the case of HoloLens 2, we also have the ability to connect to Remote Assist and Microsoft Guides by just calling those applications with the right connection. Now, and it all of course runs on Dataverse. Now, to explain a bit more in detail, let me go a bit deeper. So how does this work? And this example, I used IoT Central application just because we are using some simulation IoT sensors, but as you can imagine, this would also work for IoT Hub and other systems. Now, in principle, we have Microsoft 365 field services, and IoT Central or IoT Hub are connected to a logic app with each other to make sure that IoT alerts are being generated in field services. Now, all the data of field services is of course stored in Dataverse. Now, what we do then is we leverage the Dataverse, and for each type of entity, like an asset, an IoT alert, a case, a facility, and bookable resource, we're actually bringing that data into a service bus queue, in different service bus queues. And that can be a create, an update, or a delete based on the type of entity. Now, from the service queue bus, it actually goes, we use function apps to leverage from and to bring it into a digital twin. So the function apps are actually creating, based on the data they get on the service bus, to dynamically update the digital twin. The same goes for the IoT sensory data, which also goes to a function app towards the digital twin to update the entities, to update the sensor entities with the right IoT data. Now, as soon as we have the digital twin, there are two ways we can leverage from. One is by using nowadays the Azure Digital Twin 3D Scenes technology, but as you can imagine, it's a bit more limited and you have only the features they have. If you want to do it more custom, like we're doing, we're actually leveraging to our own framework, which is running on OpenXR through a function app, all the data. And that allows us to connect also when we use, for example, HoloLens to Remote Assist and Microsoft Guides. And both of those products are again connected to Dataverse and field services, so the whole circle is around. Now, as you can imagine, we can, depending on the client, we can actually make it a more event-driven architecture by using Event Grid. And that gives us more ability, more scalability to go to push the data to the right, within the digital twin. Now, as I already explained a bit, the system is actually auto-generating a digital twin. And what it means is that each of the field services entity components, let's call it entities, like a work order, like a case, like an IoT alert or a facility, is represented as a digital twin within the digital twin instance. And as you can see in the drawing, you will see that we actually have a work order which is being executed by a case. A case is again bound to an asset, and an asset again is contained by an account. So as you can see, we have like a model designed which made sense for, in this case, the client. And this model can of course be changed if you want to, depending on what the requirements are of the client. So to leverage from this, there are actually two ways to do this. And one is by, to leverage of this, there are two ways of doing this. And one of those things is by using Azure Digital Twins 3D scenes. This is something which is still in preview, but it is easy and quickly to design an immersive view. It is still web-based, and it limits in the features the product gives. While the features of the product are really amazing and they have a lot in there, we notice that in a lot of situations, clients request more. So that is the reason why ControlSide has its own OpenXR framework, which is custom, of course, and a bit more complex, but it allows us more to be flexible and to build in things clients actually wants. The other advantage is, since it is built on OpenXR, we can support virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality. So while we can also do web-based, In some situations, it makes more sense, like a field worker, not to open a browser, but just to put on a headset and see the information. And again, the advantage of doing mixed reality, so in case of HoloLens 2, we are able to connect to remote system guides, and we can leverage those standard products of Microsoft to even bring more capabilities to the end user. Now, hopefully you liked what you saw, and if you want to connect and innovate with me, please reach out to me. My name is Alexander Meijers. You can find me on email and LinkedIn, as you can see here. In the past, I've written a book about Azure Digital Twins, so if you want to learn more about building distributed IoT solutions with Azure Digital Twins, please look this book up and see if it can actually help you. Thank you so much and have a great build.